Welcome back. Donald Trump appears to be ramping up his attacks, this time against his own party again. Or according to new reports from NBC News, there are potentially damaging trust issues now between the Trump campaign and the RNC, largely because Trump follows his own campaign strategy. Yesterday, while speaking at a PAC rally in Atlanta, Donald Trump called for the Republican leadership to be quiet or he may take on major platform issues alone.
Just please be quiet. Don't talk. Please be quiet. Just be quiet to the leaders, because they have to get tougher. They have to get sharper. They have to get smarter. We have to have our Republicans either stick together or let me just do it by myself. I'll do very well. I'm going to do very well. Okay? I'm going to do very well. A lot of people thought I should do that anyway, but I'll just do it very nicely by myself. I think you're going to have a very good result.
Well, look at these poll numbers. Speaking of potential results here, right now, Bloomberg shows Trump's favorability at just 32% among Republican voters. That, by the way, the lowest recorded favorability since the poll was created 7 years ago. And joining me now, MSNBC political analyst and host of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Hugh Hewitt, of course. Hugh, let's get started here. What's your take on what Donald Trump said yesterday, directed at the GOP leadership?
Well, there's always friction between party leadership and the nominee. It happened with Romney, it happened with McCain, it always happens. But the truth is that both need each other. The finest hour Donald Trump ever had in front of a congressional committee is when he testified about the UN remodeling imbroglio a few years ago. And the senators brought him in because Donald Trump knew about skyscrapers and remodeling. He was fascinating. He was completely captivating to watch because he had expertise. Well, people like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have great expertise in winning elections, as do people who've run successful national campaigns before. So Donald Trump clearly has charisma, clearly has a base, but there is expertise in the party with Reince Priebus and Sean Spicer and Paul Ryan McConnell. They need each other. They've got to be on the same page. And I think they are getting there. It's not the easiest evolution towards cooperation I've ever watched, but it's happening.
So what do you compare this to? I know you just brought up the Mitt Romney issue, but if you can, give me an example where you've seen a presumptive nominee tell the leadership publicly at a rally to be quiet or he could go it alone.
Well, in 1964, Barry Goldwater had extraordinary difficulties with party leadership. In fact, late in June in 1964, a bunch of Republican governors and then former Vice President Richard Nixon got together in Cleveland to try and remove Goldwater. Right. It didn't work. You can't do that. It's very hard to do. And so eventually they either fall silent or they get behind you. What Mr. Trump needs is to rally the party, and the party needs to be rallyable. And I was a critic of Trump, but as I wrote in the Washington Post today, it's a binary choice. People can vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. One of those two is going to be the next president, given that they are both presumptive nominees. And everyone ought to focus on that choice, because Secretary Clinton, for reasons I can go through if you want to, is disqualified from being the commander-in-chief, largely because of her server and her disastrous foreign affairs record. So I think it helps Republicans and conservatives to focus on Hillary Clinton, President Obama, not on their disputes over the best set of tactics to follow.
Well, here you have Mitt Romney saying he's going to write in a name. You now have the governor of Maryland saying, Republican governor, he cannot support Donald Trump. So while you see it as a two-choice issue, there are some within your party who do not, and you bring up Hillary Clinton's foreign policy. Let me play a little bit of what Donald Trump said about Russia yesterday on stage.
Putin has built up their military again and again and again. Their military is much stronger. He's doing nuclear. We're not doing anything. Our nuclear is old and tired, and his nuclear is tippy-top from what I hear. Better be careful, folks, okay? You better be careful.
So do you have confidence in the tippy-top description that Donald Trump just gave for Russia's nuclear program, and do you agree with him?
He is warning about the modernization plans that Russia has fully underway for a lot of its nuclear deterrent and a lot of its nuclear weaponry. He's also warning about the fact that Putin is aggressive not just in Ukraine and Georgia, but towards the Baltic republics.
Is that what he said, though, Hugh? I mean, let's be honest here. What you are saying and articulating, is that what you just heard from the presumptive nominee of your party? That gives you confidence that he describes Russia's nuclear program at its tippy top. That gives you confidence?
He gives me a lot more confidence than the Russian reset button that was mislabeled that Secretary Clinton gave to Vladimir Putin's then foreign secretary. Secretary Clinton has been compromised by the Russians. The DNC this week revealed that the Russians have been inside their server for over a year without having been detected. Donald Trump articulated yesterday that he's worried about the Russians. And whether or not commentators approve of his language, he is at least aware of the threat. Mrs. Clinton is not aware of the threat. She gave them the Russian reset
You believe
button.
the former Secretary of State, the former senator from New York, is not aware of the threat of Russia? You
yes,
say that
I do.
with confidence?
Absolutely. Okay. Why otherwise would she have allowed Libya to become the nesting ground for ISIS? Why otherwise would she allow Syria to devolve into a civil war, which Russia has exploited via their
So what's Donald Trump's plan to deal with Russia?
He said he's going to embark upon the largest military buildup since Reagan. He said that repeatedly. That is what is necessary. And in fact,
and
Mrs.
how does
Clinton
he do it? How does he explain that? How does he go about that?
You go
what
to
has
the
he
speaker.
said? Not your ideas. What has he said?
He said he will go to the largest military buildup since the Reagan defense buildup, which Mrs. Clinton refuses to engage in. And so the answer specifically to your question is money. Right now, the Democrats are holding the defense budget hostage. They're not moving forward the Defense Authorization Act. They have held back the defense appropriation bill for 4 years in a row. Her party and she as the nominee have been in favor of the sequester. So I think this is actually something Donald Trump wants to campaign on. If
but
he's
he
clear-eyed,
right?
He did yesterday. He did yesterday. You don't like the word tippy top. I get that. I understand.
No, it's not the word. It's just that part of some of the criticism is that he is, as his Democratic critics have said, ignorant. Newt Gingrich has described him as an absurd amateur, and I'm trying to get to the point where we understand where you stand now, because you've not always been in this position on Donald Trump, versus what some of the leadership, like, for example, Paul Ryan and others, have slowly tried to trickle out. You have Republican leaders who are running away from microphones, unwilling or unable to defend Donald Trump in the very passionate and respectful way you've done here.
Well, I have to go back and say Newt Gingrich did not say amateur with regards to his defense position. He said amateur with regards to his campaign tactics, and that's where the bristling is. I think you will find that the Republican Party, and in fact the House rolled out a security agenda last week, is 100% in agreement with Donald Trump about the danger posed by Russia, the People's Republic of China, and the Iran nuclear deal.
Just quickly here, one more thing, foreign policy. Yesterday he reiterated that he'd be willing to meet with Kim Jong-un. He says he would not go to North Korea, but the North Korean dictator could come here. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I don't believe we ought to have anything to do with North Korea. However, it is in fact Bill Clinton who signed the 1994 agreement with North Korea that allowed for their nuclearization, which Mrs. Clinton has never repudiated. So any serious discussion of foreign affairs and national security will benefit the Republicans, and not just Donald Trump, but people like Rob Portman, Kelly Ayotte, all John McCain, the Republican senators who need to be reelected, because Democrats mean weakness when it comes to national security. That's the bottom line. And Donald Trump articulated that yesterday, and I hope he stays focused on national security.
When we get to the big debate on foreign policy, it'll be incredible to see. Thank you so much, Hugh. Great pleasure having you on, as always.